Before we begin, we'd like to acknowledge that we are broadcasting to you from the lands of the Wurundjeri tribes of the Kulin Nation.
We would also like to give an acknowledgement to all elders, past, present and future.
We recognise that sovereignty was never ceded, and that this always was
And always will be.
Aboriginal land.
So welcome everyone, and let's begin. Hi.
Hi!
Hi.
Hi!
Hi. Hi. It's been a while.
It sure has, Serica.
Well,
Welcome to Critical Communication.
how to roll the perfect feedback check. We're here today to talk about communication. It's something we do every day. In fact, at this exact moment, we're communicating about communication.
That's right. Excellent communicating, Serica. Succinctly put.
Thanks, Ceri.
Feedback in itself is a form of communication, but it's important to harness it wisely for the good of your team. Now let's begin learning how to do just that.
Are you ready to roll for initiative?
Alright, it's time to get out your d20s and roll. Ha! 16!
Ha! 20!
Alright, you first.
Alright then. Oh, please allow me to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Serica. Spelt Sorcha, pronounced Serica. Like syrup, but not for eating. I just go by the name Syrup as my alias. I've been working in games for more than 6 years. I started as a community manager and moderator for the Nox crew, a team who is currently producing Minecraft maps, servers, and running communities for the Minecraft marketplace. My next adventure was at Fire Monkeys EA Melbourne, where I led the player support team on The Sims Freeplay. Next, back in 2017, I started at Infinity Plus 2 as the player experience manager for Gems of War. If you look for me now, you'd find me hard working on our latest game as producer on Puzzle Quest 3.
Nice one, Serica. That was an awesome intro.
Thanks, Ceri.
Well, hi, I'm Ceri. Spelt Ceri, pronounced Kerry, as in classic Kerry. You get it. I've been working in games for over 10 years. I started back in 2008 at EB Games, where I love to hype up the upcoming releases, motivate team members, and train future leaders of industry. And of course, there was a lot of hanging out, talking about games. I went on to found my own pop culture events business, AFK Events, where we supported the local indie games community with Steam Greenlight launch parties, back when that was a thing. Until I finally ended up in sunny Melbourne, where I manage and support the Arcade, the Australian Game Developer Awards, and GCAP, alongside South Wolf and the entire IGA team.
That's great, Ceri. Fantastic intro.
Thanks, Serica.
So, why are we here, Ceri?
Well, we're here because we're passionate about feedback, communication, and leadership. So, Serica, why are you so passionate about feedback, communication, and leadership?
Well, across my career as a leader, communication and support has been at the heart of what I do, across each of the various types of roles that I've been in. I found that I'm drawn to these jobs as they've all had a common thread, supporting the team by empowering their communications. It's incredibly fulfilling to me to basically watch everyone collaborate together well.
Wonderfully put, Serica.
Thanks, Ceri. So what about you? Why are you passionate about feedback, communication, and leadership?
Well, for me, I think it's because it's far too common for everyone to have stories about bad bosses, and there's just not enough stories of great leaders. And honestly, watching a team grow under great leadership is quite frankly an incredible feeling that I think everyone should feel in their career.
That's awesome, Ceri. It sounds like you've had a lot of opportunities to foster trust and empower the people around you.
You're spot on, Serica. Now let's talk about what this means to you. Yes, you. Because guess what? Great communication doesn't fall into the nice to have pile.
Absolutely. In fact, I reckon communication is often taken for granted. However, great communication is a critical foundation for collaboration.
Exactly. Firstly, it can reduce risk. By creating an environment of psychological safety, team members come forward and speak up instead of sitting on potential issues until they become major problems.
That's right, Ceri. And you can even reduce burnout by embedding a sense of purpose in your team members. Because if team members feel heard, they feel valued, and this is ultimately allowing them to find a sense of purpose in their work, where their contributions are recognized as goals of the greater team.
That sounds awesome, Serica. But that's not all. You can also increase productivity by managing communication more effectively. When you lead with empathy, you form foundations of trust that foster effective communication pathways between yourself and other team members. These pathways will reduce friction when it comes to getting through the day-to-day hurdles and ensure that collaborative tasks don't get blocked by simple miscommunications.
Yeah, that makes sense. When communication is effective, discussions and meetings will have more productive results, as people are pretty comfortable to share their ideas. So finally, you'll even be able to increase quality by encouraging productive discussions. When you foster a positive work culture, you get better results out of the day to day. Every meeting, every review, every opportunity for feedback allows for team members to feel like they're contributing to something more than the sum of their parts.
Wow, you really sold me on this talk, Serica.
Thanks, Ceri. Ah, is there anything else I could do better?
Well, Serica, I thought this slide was awesome. Nice work. Remember though, when giving feedback, it's important to remember that the first step is to identify the issue. This is all about making your feedback tangible for the person you're speaking to, so that they can ground it in reality in their minds. Be specific about what the issue is at hand. Your focus should be on concrete examples of what happened and what can be done differently.
Yes, so secondly, discover the cause of the issue. Create a background story. Provide the context of the issue at hand and suggest where you found this coming from or what happened in the lead up to discovering the problem. Trying to balance it against everything else that is positive is a great way to do this. And also try to keep it objective.
Thirdly, convey the why. Lead with empathy and understand who you're talking to before speaking. Recognize their emotions in the situation and that they might not have a full picture of what you're saying. Take the time to explain what is critical and important and make sure that you clearly convey the why while making sure to outline the scope of the changes involved.
Finally, the most important step is to coach the behaviour by providing clear direction on the actions that they can take. When directing what you need someone to change, remember that as a leader, you must also follow through yourself. This shows commitment to your people and builds trust. Wrap up by offering support, something like, "Is there anything I can do for you?" or suggest the actions that you'll take yourself.
I think that summarizes it quite nicely.
Great feedback about feedback.
Thanks, Serica. Now that you understand the why, let's understand the way. Ha 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 ha.
So, when it comes to delivering feedback,
Basically, just don't be
downer.
a downer. Yes, don't be a downer. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, right. So, when it comes to delivering your feedback and opening up a dialogue, you need to nail some delivery basics.
First up, you need to pick your battles. Nope, that's too many battles. Too many battles. Put some back. Put it back.
All right. Before you decide to open a dialogue, decide whether it's worth it.
You won't get anything done if every minor issue requires a meeting to talk about it.
Just breathe. Think about whether the issue is worth raising, and don't let your first emotion drive your decision-making process.
Next up is making it timely, based on the context and the situation. Pick when, because when you have the conversation is going to set the tone of what's going to be said. Does it need to be said at 5 o'clock on a Friday? Or could you save it for 10 a.m. Monday?
Thirdly, keep it relevant to the situation and issue that arose. Give specific examples of what went wrong or what could be done differently, providing details on the issue and only raising the problem at hand. Don't muddy the water with other problems. Remember, what is relevant in the person's shoes to understand? Give them context on the situation, but try not to derail the topic.
Next up, lead with empathy. What support can you offer? Don't be transactional and one-sided. Always think, what can you do better as a leader? Make it a discussion, not a lecture. Open discussions about issues promote healthy communication. Scoldings do not.
Wow, Ceri, that was some very well timed feedback. I feel like you made it relevant to my side delivery, yet you kept it open as a discussion. How do I apply this with others?
Well, that's nice and easy. Be curious, not judgmental. We've got all these communication tools and no idea how to use them because we've got to understand who we're speaking to first.
Communication is taken for granted. It's easy to assume that when you say, do, or write anything, that it will be interpreted exactly as you intended it to those around you.
In reality, it couldn't be further from the truth. It's more common that it will be interpreted based on the person receiving the feedback, or communication that is attuned to their personality.
Yeah, that makes sense. Communication is pretty subjective, so when working with people, it's best to understand how to cater it to their unique personalities, because everyone is different. No two people will be the same.
Exactly. As you will have all heard before, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So in the same vein, you can't keep using the exact same feedback and communication tools on different people and expecting the exact same results.
It sounds like we need to adjust the way that we communicate depending on the person.
Yep, and this leads us to our archetypes.
So, when it comes to working with different people, you'll find that although everyone is unique, there are common tendencies that will appear in almost everyone to some degree.
For the purposes of this talk, we have taken these common traits and made 3 main archetypes to help you identify them in your workplace.
All right. Thanks, Ceri. Let's deep dive into each of these archetypes in order to understand the tools that you'll need to learn so you can adapt your communication style to each person. All right. First up, we have our passionate, driven barbarian.
Ah, the courageous barbarian.
So who is the barbarian? Where do we find them? What are they like?
Well, they have a lot of initiative. They have no problem starting new tasks. In fact, you might find if you don't check in on a barbarian, you'll find they've often picked up a new task or started an entirely new project.
Good point. They are zealous. They're the kind of person who's confident enough to bring up their concerns with you directly, yet courageous enough to defend their ideas in a meeting.
Yeah, they definitely don't have a problem sharing their opinion. It's typically because they're skilled and independent, usually with a lot of experience in their field.
Gotcha. It sounds like our barbarians love a challenge and they're great at what they do. So, how do we lead and motivate them?
Well, our barbarians are passionate, confident go-getters. They're typically a little direct and tell it how it is. But more importantly, they want to carve their own path, which can make many leaders mistake them as hard to manage.
Right, so our barbarians are typically drawn to the creative roles, something like an artist or a visual type of role, like a game designer as well. These kinds of people are stereotyped as the zealous roles in the industry because they're passionate, they're skilled at what they do. Therefore, they're often keen for a challenge. So they're the kind of person who is seen taking the initiative, however, might also be found stopping something to start something new quite a bit.
They are motivated by complete ownership and mastery of what they are doing, and are driven completely by their own internal motivations, ideas, and goals. This means that when communicating with the barbarian, you need to bring into context what is relevant to them.
Okay, Carrie, that makes sense. It sounds like the barbarian is so great at what they do that you need to check in on them regularly. Otherwise, you'll find them anywhere but here. You know, if a shiny new task looks more interesting, well then,
Whee! Working with a barbarian is all about keeping that lawnmower on the ground.
As we know, barbarians will consistently carve their own path, so the tools we use should focus on redirecting their energy in positive ways. The first step is by creating a sense of ownership. We do this because our barbarians are driven by their own intrinsic goals, motivations, and ideas. So we want to harness that as it allows them to feel a sense of mastery in their work. We can do this by reframing tasks as challenges and ensuring that they feel like the expert of the problem at hand.
Now, the next thing we need to acknowledge is that the barbarians are driven by passion, and will have something to say on almost every topic. So we need to ensure we are creating an environment of psychological safety, where they are given regular opportunities to speak openly about their opinions and concerns.
Right. So let's start with how we go about creating a sense of ownership in their work. The first way to do this is by framing the problem. Barbarians seek challenge. So, turn a task to be completed into a problem to be solved. This is going to allow them a sense of ownership and to build upon their own internal motivation.
Ah, I see. So it's all about creating a feeling of choice.
Yeah, you want my barbarian to be like, check out my new weapon.
My weapon of choice.
We can go with this, we can go with that. We can go with this, we can go with that. We can go it up.
Now, barbarians typically have a wealth of experience to draw upon, so it's important to appeal to that whenever appropriate. So when you're approaching them with a task, you want to appeal directly to those expertise so that they feel chosen based on their experience rather than just availability. The combination of these components results in a barbarian that can be gently nudged in the right direction, which is a far more manageable situation than a barbarian who feels like they've been put in a box.
Right. Now, let's see that in action. So, your development team has just finished working on their next big feature, and you're having a meeting to discuss the next month's work. After you've outlined the features, you need to delegate everyone's work and get an idea of who is doing what. Alright team, so we've got a nice amount of things to do here. It's going to be a bit of a challenge to get this all done, and there's quite a few new systems to design this feature for.
Yeah, you really cut out our work here on this one, Serica. It's not going to be easy to design a system that works in the existing economy.
Look, I know you previously worked on the VIP system on our last title, and it worked brilliantly. Everything you did, getting it set up for crossplay, was pretty awesome. I wonder if we could do something similar. What do you recommend we do here?
Yeah, I worked on that last feature for 6 months or so. I feel like I know my way around monetization by now, so I have a good grip on the key mechanics we could try to implement for the VIP pass.
So how would you go about tackling that? What if we went, say, within a 2-month deadline?
Well, it wouldn't be as detailed, but if we copied some of the core features across from the other project, we could have a demo by the end of the month.
Awesome. I knew I could rely on you.
So now let's discuss how psychological safety comes into play. Now, we know that our barbarians are very passionate, but this passion can take multiple forms. Sometimes this is constructive, but sometimes not so much. So this is why we need a barbarian to feel heard.
Barbarians need opportunities to speak about their feelings. So the best thing you can do is create them. Allow time in your schedule for regular opportunities to talk loosely about general ideas. It can range from something as casual as a water cooler conversation, or you can block out a more specific, focused one on one. This will allow them to air their concerns, frustrations, or ideas in a controlled space, which can prevent outbursts in less controlled environments.
When engaging in these discussions, you want to allow the barbarian to talk from their personal perspective. When making statements, try sentences that start with I feel to encourage the dialogue along. And when frustrations are aired, always respond with a statement that opens with I can understand how that would be frustrating. This will go a long way to establishing trust with the barbarian.
And in situations where the barbarian's ideas are starting to lose sight of the original intention of the project or meeting, you can build upon the idea with a yes but statement. This turn of phrase directs the conversation into converging on ideas in order to come to a resolution without shutting it down entirely. So, let's see this in action.
Okay, so there was a design meeting about the game. The barbarian responded to another team member in a bit of a condescending and cynical tone. We need to ensure that doesn't happen again, so we're going to establish an environment of psychological safety and empathy to find the cause of the behavior. Hey barbarian, thanks for chatting with me today.
Yeah, sure.
I've noticed your communications with other employees have been a bit off lately, and I'm worried about you. Tell me, what's going on?
Look, I realized I probably could have handled that better, but honestly, I feel like this whole working from home thing has really gotten to me lately. It just frustrates me that it's been difficult to focus and stay motivated.
I can understand how frustrating that is. I've found it tricky myself. I often feel that I lose a sense of time. So I can see why you would feel that way. Is there anything I can do to help?
No, I don't think so, but thanks. I guess I feel better after the weekend.
Tell you what, let's have a 15-minute check-in every Monday to check in on each other. Even if it's just to talk about the weekend. I think we both need it.
Alright, yeah, that sounds good. So, great work, Ceri.
Thanks, Erica. What's next?
Introducing our eloquent minstrel, the Bard.
So who is the Bard? Where do we find them? What are they like?
Well, Ceri, they're fantastic communicators, often lending help to others on the team, typically considered social butterflies. The Bard is the kind of member that manages to somehow duplicate themselves across every thread on Slack, and yet simultaneously hold a discussion with you on the latest thing that you're trying to solve. They're ready to respond with a healthy wall text in response to pretty much any question.
Yeah, and that's because bards are such great communicators. Honestly, sometimes to a fault. Bards spend so much time communicating with the team, they might accidentally not do their own work.
I guess that's because the Bard cares so much about the team. Being known as the reliable one is important to the Bard. It helps them feel a sense of purpose.
That sounds really interesting, Serica. So how do we lead and motivate them?
We just need to motivate.
Motivate!
Our bards are essentially driven by extrinsic motivation. This renders them prone to people pleasing as they attempt to yes everything and overcommit.
So I guess in that sense, spotting a burnt out bard isn't hard. Look out for anyone working later or attempting to reply to old Slack threads that they missed after business hours.
Yeah, they're drawn to the typical operations or support roles that are built around communications, something like production and community management, or even product and business development.
Again, bards are motivated by the team. So, the key to working with a bard is placing your communications within the context of the team's goals and project priorities.
A bard is going to positively respond to communication that A, opens conversation, and B, sets expectations. Now, let's see how to do just that.
Now, you'll recall that while barbarians were motivated by ownership and the novelty of a new task, a bard, on the other hand, has motivations that are quite different. Bards will accept tasks because they want to help others.
So, this is where, with a bard, we want to focus on ways that we can create a sense of external validation and place things in the context of the team. We can do this in two main ways.
The first is team empowerment and finding group work that will motivate them. You want to empower the bard by allowing them opportunities to not only work alongside others, but also feel recognized for their great work in front of their peers.
The second point is clear priority and structure. Bards are often carrying the team, so when it comes to communicating with them, don't just give them a sense of what is important, set expectations by letting them know how this relates to the team and how that is important in relation to their actions and work and what it's going to do when it affects others.
So let's dig into team empowerment.
That's right, because to continue to motivate our bards, we need to recognize and work with them in team situations as they are motivated by what is happening around them.
Where a wizard or barbarian might approach you wanting a more direct answer, communication with a bard needs to be a lot more open. Try using the age-old improv technique of yes and. Yes and is a simple response you can use to build upon the momentum of a conversation. Instead of shutting down an idea completely, you enthusiastically respond with yes and build off what was said to continue the conversation.
Yep, that's right. It's also important to keep in mind that our bards have a little bit more of an indirect communication style. They're often out and about communicating everywhere and anywhere across the studio and messaging apps. So we need to aim to create processes and spaces for team communication. Otherwise, they have a tendency to silo information or discussions if you're not careful. Bringing conversations back into the context of the group makes a more productive discussion as the bards are able to bounce ideas and the team has the information that they need.
Now let's see that in action.
Right, so the development team is brainstorming future features for the game, and your bard is the community manager representing the players. In previous meetings, the bard's input has been ignored, so we need to ensure that their opinions feel validated in front of the team in order to empower them to share their ideas in future meetings. Alright, so team, we've got a large backlog of quality of life improvements to get through and a number of features we've been wanting to implement for a while. Look, I'm sorry, however, we can't do them all. I need your help to understand what the top priority is right now.
Well, players have been asking for customization of their champions for a while.
Okay. I do remember actually that you brought up something similar earlier. Thank you for raising that again. Can you remind me about this?
Sure. We've noticed that players of a certain demographic love customizing in the game. They keep asking for more customization options with the current armor and wanted more options.
Okay. Yes, and we scoped a feature for doing a simple recoloring of the skins to easily add more quickly to the game previously, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. Honestly, players have been screaming in the forums for new colors of their armor for a fair bit. And they've even given some ideas of some theme ideas for bigger changes.
Okay. Actually, Yes, and it's awesome that we can save time in concepting in that case. If they've already got the ideas, pairing that together, this is a feature that could also help monetization. Alright, let's prioritize this. Great work, Bard.
Thanks. Firstly, we want to highlight the priority of the work against others in the team. The bard is a people pleaser by nature, as feeling needed is a key component of our externally motivated bard. This lends them to end up being a little time poor, as they drop important tasks to help someone out if they feel that that person needs their help. This eventually leads the bard on the dangerous path of burnout, working outside of traditional hours to catch up on their workload as they've picked up too much. To ensure that they avoid this impractical solution of diminishing returns, you'll need to help them organize their task load and time by making priorities clear and the team's progress transparent.
This can be done by highlighting the importance of the task in the context of the team or the person involved, as opposed to specifically the project. For example, thanks for updating Unity. It's going to be so helpful for John in making his work porting the game to Xbox a little bit easier. Or it can simply be reminding them of their progress by utilizing tools that allow the entire team to beacon their progress clearly. Something like a task board where everyone has their work shown, day-to-day stand-ups, highlighting the big team goals on a roadmap in a way that's done in a regular meeting. Anything like this kind of visualization of work, allows them to benchmark their progress and avoid overwhelming themselves. So, let's see this in action.
Alright, so the bard has approached you as they are feeling overwhelmed with too many tasks and have asked you to help them prioritize. So bard, tell me about what you're working on at the moment.
Okay. So I've got to write the patch notes for the next update. Oh god, it's coming up soon. Okay, update the support documentation to make it clear for the other people that they know what to do when we've got to compensate them. I've also got to create the video for the next big update because our publisher needs us to do that. Oh crap, I've also got 50 tickets to respond to. Oh, and I have to write the what's new copy for the App Store. Very important.
Okay, so out of these, what do you think is the most important or business critical?
I would say maybe to create the video for our next update because our publisher asked for that, so it's business critical.
Great. And what do you think would create the most risk or problems if we don't get to it soon?
Ooh, okay. Well, I need to finish writing the patch notes as the update is at the end of the week. Oh, then it would be those 50 support tickets as they're quite overdue now. But, actually, no, the what's new copy is very important because it goes up on the App Store and everyone sees it and it's like,
Okay, I don't remember you bringing that task up last week in our stand-up. Did somebody else give that to you?
Yeah, Jeff gave me this task. He said it's very important.
Okay, well, I think you've got a full plate already with the task that you have right now. So let's focus on those three you listed before.
But what if Jeff gets mad at me?
That's okay. I'll have a chat with Jeff today and see if they can work on their own task list. All you need to do is focus on those three tasks and finish that documentation next week.
Alrighty, can do.
Alright. And next, we present our final character.
The Wise Wizard. Ceri, there's been something I've been meaning to tell you.
What is it, Serica?
You're a wizard, Ceri.
I'm a what?
You're a wizard. And I think I might be too.
So what is it like to be a wizard at work?
Great question, Ceri. Wizards are clever cookies. They're likely specialized in their discipline or simply know how to innovate on ideas. They have incredible attention to detail, and you can be certain they've thought of something you didn't even consider.
They're the kind of person that you might not hear much from. Then they'll come out of seemingly nowhere with a completely polished piece of work, which is probably far beyond what you needed.
Yep, this is the person that will likely be a perpetual polisher, tinkering away until something is just right.
Yep, and in fact, the wizard might have come across as overly analytical with a million questions, but in reality, it's simply because understanding the why of things is the most key detail for the wizard.
Right. So, how do we lead and motivate them?
Well, your wizard is specialized in their craft, and they can often be found working away, independently crafting something to absolute perfection. You might not hear from them often, but rest assured, they'll keep working like some kind of little automaton.
So, you'll find that they're drawn to roles like engineering or most senior or lead positions. An engineer, okay, look, while most engineers can fit into a lot of the categories here, okay, look, there's quite a lot of engineers in game development. You'll find that the wizard is one engineer who insists on polishing the most.
Now, where a barbarian will get distracted and move on to another task that has novelty or challenge, they'll be like, hell yeah, new thing. A wizard will end up spending too much time on one task. They really like to get in there and absorb themselves in the ins and outs of something.
Completely absorbed. Our wizards are motivated by purpose. This means that they want to understand why and how things work in order to translate it into their own goals. As opposed to the barbarian, who wants to do what interests them, the wizard is driven by both their own goals and also what others expect. Bit of a balance. As we know, our wizards are very analytical in nature, so they tend to come across as questioning everything. Therefore, when communicating feedback, it's important to bring things into the context of why they are important for the wizard. So, let's understand how we can do just that.
So the first tool is to communicate the importance of the task at hand. You do this in two parts. First, you allow the wizard the opportunity to come to you with their questions in a one-on-one environment. You make sure that when communicating these tasks, you always bring it back to the why.
Right. And the second one is clear constraints. Wizards need to be told what not to do. Alright, so it sounds a little bit counterintuitive, but this is super important as they're so prone to innovating and will push and perfect ideas to their death. This is about setting expectations on what done looks like. In order to stop them essentially working a week past the deadline or perpetually polishing well past business hours. So now, let's get stuck into what this looks like with our first tool.
So let's talk about the why. And why it's important to the wizard. When communicating a task or providing feedback, start with a broader context. Bring in the background story. Don't rush it. It might not seem critical to you to do so, but it's going to be the fuel for the wizard's productivity fire.
Wizards love analysing things and understanding how they work. This also means that they'll appear to question any tasks or feedback that they don't understand the importance of. While your initial reaction might be that this is a negative situation and to maybe get a little defensive, in actual fact, if you get 20 questions at first, you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, this is the wizard going through their own process of internalizing why things are supposed to happen in a certain way and understanding what they need to do.
And secondly, create an open door policy. This is all about making an environment where the wizard feels they can come to you when they need something. Once they've gone through this process, you can rest assured that they'll be off doing their own thing and most certainly will have completed the task above and beyond what you needed.
So let's take a look at how this works. Your wizard is an engineer about to implement a new feature. They've read the design brief and you're in a one-on-one meeting to discuss the task at hand. Thanks for offering to take lead on this live events feature. Now, as you know, a large player base has gotten through the main story content faster than expected, and they're crying out in the forums for some more endgame content, because we have a larger community than expected. we're confident we can implement a live events feature that will get great engagement in our player base.
Yeah, I guess I was wondering why we're going for a live events feature rather than adding more content to the story. It just seemed a bit simpler.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we have the data that showed us that when players hit the top level, they're not really engaging with the story mode content anymore. So the live event feature fits the existing game economy better.
Okay. Yeah, I guess my only thing was it doesn't really feel very unique, and I worry that this has been done before. So, I guess, have you considered that we are implementing a feature that is similar to a lot of other games?
Yeah, and that's okay, honestly. We felt that this was a tried and tested model and has worked on other free-to-play games. So we made this choice because we only have 6 weeks of development time for this update, and we're really just trying to lay the foundation for new types of events later on.
Oh, okay. Cool, gotcha. Alright, well, that makes a bit more sense. Well, actually, I think I have an idea about how we could get this done quickly. What if we built off the existing functionality for PvP and structured the database in the same way?
Great point. Well, as long as we can get the live service feature implemented by the end of the month, I'm more than happy for you to use that new feature. We'll have time after this update to iterate and change this feature later on. So, do you feel like it's achievable within that deadline?
Yeah, can do.
So, our wizard knows why the task is important. The next tool is setting constraints. The first step to this is to define what done looks like before starting a task by clearly outlining what not to do. The outcome of what does not need to be done is just as important as what does need to be done. This is because the wizard is a perpetual polisher. You're going to find that they will spend 80% of their time polishing the last 20% of the task. If you're not careful, a wizard can continue to work on something for so long that they end up evolving it into something entirely different. So remember that set constraints will actually ultimately help a wizard finish the task, not hinder them.
Makes sense. In that case, the second step is all about outlining the scale of the changes required. This is about explaining the task or giving the feedback in a way that outlines the size of the changes involved, in order to basically paint a bigger picture. For example, is this a task the wizard is implementing the first of 3 phases? It's a lot of work. Is the feedback you gave them on their work a quick fix or a massive overhaul? What impact does this have on the rest of the game or the project? Wizards are super talented and likely to get into the weeds or focus on the detail of something small. Setting these expectations on the scope of the task or the feedback helps them perform at their best without burning out. So, with the wizard, remember that the sky's the limit. You need to tell them, don't design a hovercraft. We just need a Hyundai. So, let's set our final scene. The wizard is 1 week overdue on a major feature implementation. So, you're in a one-on-one checking in on their progress. Hey wizard, how are you going on that new live event system?
The game's UI seems to not fit on an iPhone 5C, so I've redesigned the aspect ratios to suit the iPhone 5C and tested it across a number of different devices and implemented a bunch of the settings with data hooks to see if the players have actually changed it.
So, do we have something that's ready for our QA to test yet?
No, I've been focusing on the aspect ratio issue.
Okay, alright, well, thanks for raising that issue. I can see how that would be a bit of a concern for a number of our players. Don't worry about that for now. I'll go through your notes and pass that on to the QA manager who can start getting some data on the problem, see how it's affecting players, and then maybe work with their tools engineer on the issue. Do you want to see if you could perhaps get a functional version of live events for next Monday? That way, I can figure if we get it to QA early, get some testing done, work out any issues, and we just focus on getting something functional.
Oh, yeah? Yeah, cool. No problem. Thanks for that.
Alright, well, for now, focus on the live events. Just do something, anything you can, and have the basic functionality in for next Monday. We just want the gameplay working. I'll check back in at the end of the week. If you have any questions or have any ideas before then, just reach out. Come see me.
All right. That sounds good. Thanks. Oh.
Alright. That was a good break, Ceri.
Oh, my lord.
Wait.
That's a lot of content we just got through.
Is there any more?
Oh, God, I hope not.
Get on the beers.
You're doing a great job so far, Serica.
Thank you, Ceri. 10 out of 10. Solid breaking. In
All right.
fact, such a good break.
All right.
I just feel very refreshed.
Yeah.
No, I want to keep having a break. Oh, fine.
All right. We're
then.
going to get back to it
Super great.
eventually.
Well done.
Okay. Well done. Let's do it.
Okay, I think it's time to summarize the talk and focus on some key takeaways.
Firstly, empathy and understanding. You won't know which communication tool to use until you understand who you are talking to and can empathize with that person's point of view. Communication is a two-way street. You need to ensure you listen and understand before you speak and manage, while also taking the time to create understanding by explaining importance and reasoning.
Secondly, transparency and clarity. Equip your team with the information they need so it's accessible to everyone. Clarify what's expected of them, but also what they can expect of you. Take opportunities to have open discussions to actively prevent information siloing.
Next is availability and support. Create an open door policy to establish trust and set the stage for ongoing communication and feedback. Offer support when things get difficult. Make it clear how you can help and make sure you follow through when you do.
And finally, it's worth noting that we designed these archetypes in order to make our communication tools clear. However, the reality is that you might find people are a combination of these archetypes.
Yeah, I for one am a bit of a barbarian.
Alright then, if you're a barbarian, I'm guilty, and I'm a bit of a Bartizard. Bartizard? Sort of like a Charizard. Barbarian? It's like a weird version of Wario?
Yeah, it's got a bit of a Wario vibe from it, doesn't it? So I think that's it.
Are we? Oh, no, wait, we're not quite done. What about the credits?
Yeah. Gotta give credit where credit's due.
Exactly. Alright, cue the end titles. This talk was built off the top of many great resources.
From books to articles to podcasts, here are the main resources we based our concepts on.
And don't forget to take a picture. It lasts longer. Or a screenshot. It's the 21st century after all.
You'll work it out.
Alrighty. What about some books? Or some articles? Or some podcasts? First up in the books, we have a number of things. From Adam Grant's Think Again.
To Gretchen Rubin's 4 Tendencies.
And Mark Stinkdawn's
You can't laugh at Stinkdawn. I'm keeping this. This is live. I'm not doing a second take now. The world can witness you laugh at Mark's Stinkdawn at the end of a 1-hour talk about communication. This is service design doing by Mark Stinkdawn.
Look, I'm going to take Simon Sinek because I know that you love him, Ceri, but, start with why and Leaders Eat Last were also some great books that we pulled from. And you know what, Ceri? I'm just going to take the rest of this list. Giving Feedback is Giving Gifts by Ivo Valchev. And finally, our podcasts. I'm not going to say that one because it's a swear word, but it's by your CEO and mentor. And also Work Life by Adam Grant.
Nicely done, Serica.
You're welcome. Flawlessly portrayed, I do say myself.
Not a single mistake made.
Not one at all.
Okay, so next up, thank you so much to our artist, Jess Brett, for her original artwork for the Bard, Barbarian, and the Wizard.
You really brought these characters to life, Jess.
Thanks, Jess.
All right. Well, thank you all very much for coming to our TED Talk. I think that's a wrap, Ceri.
Yeah, that is a wrap. So, if you have any questions that we haven't already answered, you can reach out to us via the GCAP meeting system or on Twitter via our handles displayed on screen. I mean, apart from that, I think that's it. So, bye!
Bye.
I don't know why I'm waving.
Yeah.